And we are live. Hi, welcome back to the channel. If you are new here and you don't know my face, my name is Stephanie Jean, and this is my channel where I like to talk about stuff on the internet. Today is Juneteenth, which is Freedom Day, which is super freaking awesome. And if you don't know what that is, I will get some links and put them in the description bar. I did not do that ahead of time, but I will do that soon. So today we are having a discussion, and we are joined by my good friend Jordan, who I'm going to add to the there we go. Hi.
Hey.
So Jordan is gonna have a little solo block of time where he's going to be able to speak on the Black Lives Matter movement or his personal experiences and or whatever the heck he wants, because we are amplifying people of color today. So Jordan, take it away.
Awesome. So first off, a little bit about me. I am a queer person of color. I'm Filipino, pronouns he, him, they. My biggest thing is I'm an activist, first and foremost, and then an artist. My primary history is in the world of education. That's where my realm of advocacy starts. I attended CSU Bakersfield, got my degree in music ed. And this time last year, I was up in DC on Capitol Hill, fighting for music education, fighting for equality, specifically fighting for a more diverse, inclusive, equitable, and accessible quality music education for literally the nation. And that evening, the House voted and passed on increased funding. So I've seen work be done on the Hill. And 2 weeks ago, I was on the front lines here in my hometown of Bakersfield, protesting against racial injustices in my police system. I live in a city and county where our law enforcement is rated like deadliest in the nation. And being on that front lines for that was a big thing. I can't be on Capitol Hill 1 year and not support this movement this year. Does that make sense? So I had to show up and show out. And especially because it was on the brink of Pride. Oh my goodness. Pride was started by a trans woman of color. So it's only natural for the queer community during Pride to come out and to help support our brown and Black brothers and sisters. Because we have been oppressed. Speaking from a personal color standpoint, we have been oppressed for a minute. And Juneteenth marks the official on record end of slavery post Emancipation Proclamation. It's when the last of the slaves were set free in the South. Although slavery didn't end in the state, at least in Mississippi, till 2000, I want to say 8. That's a big thing. But yeah, the Black Lives Matter movement is so big, so important, especially now in this month, in the middle of COVID. Let's talk about Black Lives Matter and COVID. It is, I honestly think, this is about to get a little conspiracy theory hit, but I'm just going to share my truth. COVID, we know that it attacks people of color and their immune systems and their bodies harsher than those who are white. And the disparities of, let's see, what is it? Gerrymandering, is that what it is? When you block out, anyway, city planning. The city of LA is planned out to where Black and Hispanic individuals and families are put into segregated ghettos that are less affluent than the white folk. Beverly Hills, Rodeo Drive, West Hollywood. Those are all facts. But COVID attacks us worse. So in the middle of Pride Month, the middle of Juneteenth, the middle of COVID, we are showing up and showing out regardless of these factors that could harm us, because our lives are literally dying anyway. What more can we do? we said, you know what? If the cops are trying to kill us, COVID's trying to kill us, all we want is equality. All we want is a seat at the table. All we want is our voices to be heard and listened to. So there's that. But in the queer community, it's amazing to see in Bakersfield, in my hometown at least, to see us be active and be present. We understand that Black voices and Black leadership start revolutions. They start movements. They start, honestly, a new age, a new, this is the roaring 20s. You know what I mean? Like, we are on the cusp of something great. And the Black Lives Matter movement, I feel they are totally pioneering us through. And I think that's all I have to say on that. What are some questions? I would love to have a dialogue. Let's see. Stephanie,
are you wanting me to jump in?
I would love for you to jump in, girl.
Okay. Okay. So as somebody who is striving to be a better ally, I recognize that it's, my responsibility to educate myself. Can you share any experiences that you've had with new allies during this movement, whether that be queer allies or Black Lives Matter allies?
Yes. Okay, yes. Allyship. Okay. So, like I said earlier, it's Black voices, Black leadership. It was in the Black Lives Matter movement. Let's handle that one first. Know that there are so many books out there to read and to educate. What is systemic racism? What is, or how the country was formed to be racist and place white people above people of color. There's a book called I'm not talking to the reason I'm
Why I'm no longer talking to white people about race. Yes, I read that book like last year. It's so good. It's on Audible. Check it out. It's narrated by the author. And one of the things about that book that I really loved was that it talks about racism in England, in the UK, and how it's so crazy as an American that like it's the same issue. This isn't an American issue. This is a global
it's not
issue.
Isolated. It's yes, and that I think that reading that book, it's so eye-opening and so big picture that it's like, okay, this I needed. This is a human issue. This is a humanity issue, and I think that gives empathy, and that's the big first step. And for allyship, just to know that be the best vice president, be the best support you can be. I always just like for me personally in Black Lives Matter movement, I'm not Black. Like I'm Filipino, so I couldn't be a leader. I couldn't hold a megaphone if I wanted to, or I could have, but I didn't because I knew that wasn't my place. I needed to shut up and just take it. Not take it, but shut up and listen because they have the light, they have the platform.
Yeah,
and
it's their moment, and we're here not as It's like you can't. Being an ally doesn't mean you're Black. It's like being an ally to the queer community doesn't mean you're queer. Like you're an ally. You're standing with, in solidarity with, but not necessarily a part of. And that line can be, I think it's really clear when we're talking about Black Lives Matter and like racial injustices, but that line I think can be blurred when it comes to queer injustices. Like
yes. A lot big things
allies
for me
are
right
so
now.
important.
Yes. That's yes. I have the comment. Yes.
Oh, Here, let me put it on the thing.
You mentioned
book
something
has
about
Juneteenth.
slavery in Mississippi. Yes. So on the books, so slavery was made illegal through Emancipatory Proclamation, and it's federally. Then from there, the states have to ratify and change their own state constitution to reflect the federal law. So that's why it takes so much time to see laws enacted locally, because once the nation has it, the state has it, the county has it, the district has it, and then your city has it. So Mississippi was the last state to ratify their constitution. And I believe that ended in 08 or 10. And that was a big, big, like, no, like, that was like, when I was in high school, it was like a get over it. People like slavery ended so long ago, and it was like, no, slavery ended in Mississippi. Like it just ended. So that's what I was alluding to and mentioning.
That's insane. Oh, I got a beep.
Yeah, but going back to being an ally to the queer community, that one is all, to me, is all about language. Words hold power. Words hold weight. So, for instance, I say this jokingly, but it's a good example. Instead of, I don't say I'm going straight, I say I'm going forward. You know?
Yeah.
And it's like, and I use they, them, like whenever I was talking about a different individual, as whenever I can, because I don't want to assume. And if they drop like, oh, like their own pronouns, then I'll appropriately use. And then
I feel like pronouns are such a thing that like a lot of people who are not trans, and I'm gonna say not trans just because even people who are part of the LGBTQ plus community who are not trans still have an issue with remembering about pronouns. And one of the things that I've seen, as you know, I'm bi, so I'm part of the community, but that doesn't mean I understand what it's like to be trans. It's like one of the things that I try to do is normalize introducing myself with my pronouns. And I think if allies were to do that as well, then it would just kind of like, it would normalize this other aspect of, you know, the queer umbrella, you know?
Yes. I was recently in a show where we had a moment where we had introductions. We didn't even go over like pronouns or things like, or respecting each other's identities. And I had to sit down with the director, and I was like, I'm from a classical sphere, and we're sensitive to it. And I thought that it was all the arts were also sensitive to this kind of topic. And she was like, "You're right. I apologize. Like, well, next rehearsal we'll get on that." And I was like, "Well, thank you," because like I don't know these people. I don't want to just assume, because that's rude. To call someone by the wrong name, by the wrong like pronoun, that's by the wrong identity. No, that's
that's so like 1990s. Like we're past that.
You just gotta ask questions and come at it out of respect and like I want to know better. Please teach me, because I have people like, I don't understand this. Like, can you explain to me this? I'm like, I need you to come at me with a more receptive attitude, please. You know?
Yeah, not like, you need to make it make sense to me. Like,
right? Can you dumb it down for me? It's like, no, girl. Like gender is complex.
Yeah, and I think the same thing should be applied to, you know, I was going to say racial studies, but I don't think that's the right way to phrase this. But to racial injustices, I guess. Going at it, I mean, growing up white, you know, I recognize now my privilege, but growing up in a white household and in, you know, a community that was predominantly not white, and hearing a lot of racist ideology from my parents about reverse racism and things that don't exist. But, you know, when that's all you're exposed to, you think that's what it is. But part of being an ally, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, is not just breaking the cycle in your family, but to continue to challenge those thoughts consistently.
Yeah.
And recently I've been seeing a lot of things about ally fatigue, which is kind of hilarious because like, yeah, it can be exhausting to be like, oh crap, my entire worldview is a lie and built on these pillars of systemic racism.
Yeah.
Yeah, that can be exhausting, sure. But imagine living as a person of color. Yeah. I mean, when I went, the last protest I went to, I got these huge blisters on my feet. And I was like, yeah, it hurts, but at least I'm not dead.
Yeah. Yeah. Speak on it. Because that's what it is. Yeah.
Go ahead.
That's what it is. And it's the fatigue. I get that. Fatigue is real, but you sit down, you take a nap, you recharge.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's true with any sport, true with any art, true with any craft, you know. Like I was for the Bakersfield protest, after night 4, I texted my best friend and I was like, hey girl, I am like, I don't think I can make it tonight. I feel like crap. Like I feel like I'm not doing it enough. And she was like, I need you to stop right there because those automatic negative thoughts, the ants, what she called it, so those are there to trip you up and to break you down. Like you are doing enough. You are on the front lines. You are there every day. You are doing more than enough. Take tonight, sleep, recharge, and go at it again. No one can do one thing for so long. Even God rested. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Rome was not built in a day. If Rome wasn't built in a day, we can't destroy the patriarchy in a day. Like it's the same thing.
And honestly, I said we were on the cusp of a revolution, and I promise you we are. I promise you we are, because we have to burn it down to build it back up. And I really
it's
think
Phoenix season. We need some ashes to grow out of.
That's what but there needs to be that plan first.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Earlier you had talked about your experience in a concert and identity in a concert and the rehearsal process. I want to refer to a story. It's not my story. I'm not going to say any names because I don't want to, name drop, but there's someone that I know who is a person of color of the previous generation. Okay. And she has been trying to open a theater that amplifies Black voices forever. And she was sharing this story on her Facebook page about how she's seen white people with the same goal of opening a community theater, get all the funds like instantly, be able to open and fail and then try 2 or 3 more times. And she hasn't been able to even get the first step done. And then, so a little time has passed. She's been able to raise up some money. She was filling out forms with the county, right? Yeah. Excuse me. And one of the forms, she shared a picture. One of the questions was, do you plan for this to be an education center? And then underneath it, do you plan for this education center to be segregated? In 2020.
What kind of language is that?
And it's like, I hope that's there so that anybody who says yes gets an automatic denial, but like, why is it even there? And like, this is 2020 and that's still on the paperwork. And it's just absolutely insane. And, when we're talking about the arts and race, especially because I'm going to talk theater because that's what I know the most. Yeah. Suspension of disbelief is a thing. As somebody who has been an actor, who wants to be a director, let's say I'm producing a show and we've precast the main character and the main character is white passing, racially ambiguous, but white passing. And then that character has parental figures in the show, in the script. Does that mean that the parental figures need to look like the main character? No, because it's theater and you can suspend your disbelief. They don't have to look. I don't know about television and I don't know about movies because that's different. But in live theater, it should not freaking matter. The only case wherein which it does matter is if it is a role about race and the race is integral to the part. Doesn't matter. So like you can't have like a bunch of people of color playing Nazis in Sound of Music. That just doesn't make sense. Unless
because
it's
you
like
can't have white people in Hairspray.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can, but like not
the roles, the certain roles. You know what I mean? Yes.
Yeah. Like you can't have like white mama, Motorbouth Maybelle.
No.
You know. Oh, this is interesting. Isn't it possible segregation was referring to boys and girls clubs, not race? I don't know if that's the phrasing of it, though.
Yeah, I think my issue is with the wording. Again, words hold weight, words hold power. Segregation is a thing of the past. It's very archaic.
Yeah, and its connotation automatically means separation by race. Now, if you're talking about like boys and girls, I mean, still that's kind of like a gray area because like gender is fluid, but
yeah,
I don't know.
I think it's race related, definitely.
Yeah. I don't know if there's a different phrase for separation by gender, but even if there is, I don't know if it would be included on the form like that. Yeah, but thank you for your question. We love questions.
Yeah. We love that.
So we were supposed to have 2 other people joining the chat, but they're MIA so far. We'll see if they show up. But I think we're having a very good discussion.
Me too.
Yeah.
And right now there's a big conversation in the classical music sphere about how white how this choral music in general is just so white.
It's like all like German and French.
Yes. And the only it stereotypes it has become stereotyped where the black composers and like black artists, just their music is always the show-stopping gospel song at the end of the concert, you know.
Or it's the jazz concert, you know, like that one jazz concert that everybody does is just like it's like February, you know, for like Black History Month. Yeah,
and there's a whole discussion happening right now, like real time, about this and how there are so many black composers like who were alive when Mozart was alive, who was alive when Handel was alive, you know what I mean? When all the greats were alive. So we're black people. So we're black, smart, educated musicians. And I was on Twitter last night and Black Beethoven was trending. And I was like, okay, challenge me, yes. Like challenge my thinking, like, why can't Beethoven be black? I mean, historically we know that he wasn't. But like again, like, but why?
And there's a thing too with like Black Mozart or Mozart being African descent. Yeah. But I guess there's like other like historians, like musical historians, who are saying that Mozart wasn't black, but he could have had African heritage. Yeah, like but he was white. Sure. He was essentially white. So like even like in media, like things like that can get like, you know, like people just read the headline.
And like I saw this one historian. She was like, she took a really good turn. She took let's take the topic of Black Beethoven and let's look at the music he composed for black artists. And I was like, ooh, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yeah. Because Beethoven, this was before he lost his sight. He composed this violin concerto that was too hard for so many people to play. But he composed it for his homie. Oh God. Berkshire, it's his friend who happened to be black. Like there's this whole catalog of music that has been untouched because it was unplayable, but it was actually composed for black musicians. So like think about that. Like even in the classical sphere, like we love black culture. We love like black. I mean, yeah, culture is that word, but
there's that poster I see at protests a lot, and it's like they want our rhythm but not our blues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah.
Oh, what is this? Hold on. I'm getting comments on my phone that aren't showing up in the live stream yet. I only recently learned of names of Chevalier de St. George, Samuel
Oh, here
Coleridge.
they are.
There they are. Yeah.
Yes.
Cool.
Yes.
I would have never learned these names without Twitter. All these names. If people are watching, take a screenshot, look up these names.
Yeah.
The violinist. I saw that last night.
Yeah.
Why want it taught about this in school?
No, she's, or whomever this is. Yes. Correct.
That's my husband.
We love this.
We love growth. We love character development.
Whoa. No. Yeah, it's amazing, right? And then, yeah, it's just amazing. And then in media, freaking, if you've seen Watch It on HBO, you should. Excellent execution. Okay. I didn't know about the Tulsa Black Wall Street riot.
The Tulsa massacre? Yeah, I know. I didn't know about that either until somebody posted about it on Facebook. Like, it was a poll. It's like, how many of you learned about the Tulsa massacre in school? And I was like, I have no idea what this is. BRB, I'm gonna go do a Google. And like, oh, and did you hear about the like history of Central Park?
No.
Okay, so I need to do some fact checking because like honestly, this is just something I saw, but take my words with a grain of salt. Apparently, Central Park originally was a thriving Black community.
I believe that.
And it was like open to all different kinds of people. And then the city was like, we can't have a thriving Black community. No, we're going to have a park.
Yeah.
So that's,
I believe that.
Apparently,
I believe that.
I believe it too, but I need to do more research. So I'm going to just say that's something that I've seen. I don't know if it's fact. Always fact check your people. Whether you agree with them or disagree with them, always do fact checking. We talk about this in witchcraft all the time. But like never just take one person's like words and be like, oh, that's what they said, so it must be true. Like, no, you gotta like double check that stuff.
Google is right here. Just gotta
Google, yes. Check it out. And like check multiple sources. And don't just stick to the one that agrees with you.
Amen. Be willing. I feel like if you're fact checking, you have to be willing to be wrong.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's okay. That is okay because that's how things grow. I mean, you didn't understand something before, and now you do.
Yep.
Yeah, but just the violinist and the Black excellence and all of that.
What is this? Also interesting. Google the Townsville Mutiny. Should I look that up right now? I'm gonna look that up right now. We're talking about education. I don't want to forget.
We are.
How would you say? I'm gonna ask you a question, Jordan. How would you say your upbringing has contributed to your stance, right? So like I mentioned, like I'm white, my parents are white. I was raised in I call my parents closet racists because they don't think they're racist, but racists never think they're racists. But I mean, like they truly believe they think that everybody is equal, but they don't. Anyway, how do you feel like your upbringing has contributed?
Definitely, it's contributed to my identity. Well, strongly. I grew up in a conservative Christian household that focused on athleticism and being a part of a team than being an individual. If my mother's theology allowed her, she would have been a children's pastor, but her theological review said, no, women shouldn't be pastors. I'm like, okay. So grew up in that kind of Christian environment.
Taste of misogyny.
Yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. And so I grew up like devout Christian, like devout. Like I went to high school and I actively voted. I was on ASB. I actively voted against the GSA. Like I voted not to have them. I hated myself that much. Like I didn't want a safe space for myself.
Mhm.
So yeah, that was Jordan, like birth to
GSA, for those
what,
of you who
20?
don't know, is Gay Straight Alliance.
Yeah, GSA is Gay Straight Alliance, yes. And so I saw just how people treated minorities in all aspects. Because my Christian church was primarily and dominantly white.
Yeah.
And those in leadership were white. My mom is white passing.
The caucasity.
Yes. So
It's my
I saw they
favorite
treated
phrase.
other people, and they mocked. They called it ghetto culture because they didn't want to use like black or brown, but they mocked
I
it.
hear blackitude a lot, which is just like the stupidest. Every time I hear that, and I'm like, what does that mean? You know, blackitude. What does that mean? What is blackitude? What is that? What is that? What are you saying? Say it better.
And
say it clearer.
So
say your racist thoughts. Come on. Yeah.
I know. So I grew up with a lot of that environment, and it kind of like boxed me in because I'm right here sitting next to these individuals while they're talking honestly just mess about homosexuals or queer individuals. They're talking mess about other Black individuals but that's okay because we can say that about them because they don't go to our church. It was very much like that was a condition. And I was like, so I grew up seeing all of this and then all this disparity, all of this negativity under the guise of just words and holier than thou attitudes. So during my own coming out process, I had to address a lot of things. My own self-hatred because of being gay, and just my own internalized racism and anti-Blackness. A lot of that was, I had to address all of that. I had to break down who I was to become who I am. I always say, like, people are like, Jordan, you're so confident, or you're so comfortable in your own skin, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, no.
I'm glad you think so.
I was like, it took me years. It took me years to build like this person who like before you, because I hated the person who I was. So I'm building this person up, and it's taking a lot of self-reflection, a lot of, damn, I'm wrong. I mean, like for me, like an example of my anti-Blackness was I only found white men attractive. I only found white men sexually attractive. And I remember not having sex, like swiping like right or swiping, what is it, left?
I don't know. Bro, I've been married too long. I don't remember.
Good. You didn't know. Good. Swiping no on like people who were not white. And that's a problem. Yes, swiping, yeah. So I swiped left on so many people.
Yeah.
Like, just because they weren't white. And that was a sign of like, okay, Jordan, that's problematic. That is not okay. That you are like you wouldn't like that. So why are you pushing that on someone else? So there's a lot of like just growth and a lot of tears, honest, because you fight against all these inequalities, and then through self-reflection, it's boom, like it's inside of you now. It's like, oh wait, I have all these horrible, disgusting attributes, and like I had to feel it. I had to grieve. I had to release all these emotions, and that was hard, but I had to do it. But then once I did, I told myself, okay, I'm done. Like I recognize it. How am I going to grow? And that's when my activism started. That was my research of the education system in America. That started. That's when I was like, okay, what are these books? How can I about race and ethnicity and then gender identity and just I call it queer theory. You know, how can I educate myself to become a better activist? How can I be exposed? How can I my circle of friends? I was like, how can I expand that to more like people of color, more queer individuals, more queer people of color? You know?
Yeah, definitely.
And that's how I have like built my stance on these things, because I don't want anybody else to fall victim of a system that wants to silence and suppress. I don't want that for anybody. And
Yeah.
I know that I have a big voice. I know that I have a big claws out personality, and I will go. I will go to these meetings. I will fight for y'all. I will, because I know that like everything is energy, you know, everything. Yeah. So if whatever I put out, I want that. I'm trying to feed Mother Earth, Mother, you know, the source, just like heal, but use me.
Yeah.
You know, like give me guidance, give me a direction, give me a fuel, give me a fire. And
yeah.
And she listened. And
she do.
Yeah.
She do.
And that's just my stance. And like that's why I do it, because I'm kind of that person. If I see no one else doing it, I'll do it, you know? If I'll be the first to leave, like if that's how I
yeah, you're a goat.
I am a Capricorn.
There we go. I'm fish, so like I don't know. I'm
just you're there.
I'm a Pisces, you know.
Yeah, honestly, we love a Pisces. They're the most calm out of all the water signs.
Pisces sun, Pisces moon, you know. Libra ascendant.
Oh wow. Oh, we love a Libra. Okay, yes.
Yeah. This is why we're friends. Hello.
I'm a Cancer rising, Capricorn sun, and Taurus moon. So I'm a little guarded. I'm a little emotional.
Got a little things going on there.
I know. I know.
Yeah. Well, I don't know where our other guests are, but I know that you said that you had to leave at like 1:40 because of work, and it is 1:37. So is there any closing statements that you want to make? I did put your Twitter handle in the comments, and I'll also put it in the description box when I get a chance to edit it. I can't edit it when we're live, so. But yeah.
If you can't be an activist or physically be an activist, just sign petitions. Sign petitions, but check what they are about. Donate to bailout funds to help free wrongfully imprisoned protesters. Donate to the Black Lives Matter movement, the organization itself. And honestly, connect with your people of color, connect with your queer friends, because we are going through it. Our rights are being questioned and are under attack for just being who we are. And that is a scary, scary thing. We've won so many victories in the past week, but we can't. I don't want to settle. I don't want to be. So just check in on us and ask us how we can help, how we are doing. If that's just coffee, then boom, it's coffee. If that's we're watching a movie together, that's watching a movie together. If that's, hey, join me for this protest, join them for the protest. But check in. As an ally, check in. Vote? Okay, yes, you can vote. Yes, vote.
But there is an issue with voting and people of color, because people of color have been so dramatically imprisoned and criminalized. Once you are deemed a criminal, you know, once that's on your record, it follows you forever and you cannot vote. So it's really important for allies to educate ourselves and to be able to vote for the people who can't.
Yeah.
So that's a little something. So Jordan, thank you so much for joining us.
No problem.
I see my cat.
Yeah.
I see Judd is here, so I'm going to add him once he shows up. But Jordan, you are free to go ahead and go. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you so much, you guys. Fight less and sing often. Thank you.
I love you. Bye. Okay, and let me add Judd. Judd, can you hear me?
I think so. Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, we don't have any video of you, but if you didn't
Yeah.
want to have video, that's cool.
I don't mind. I'm just in the car. I just got back from my meeting, had a different meeting, and then I had to go to the doctor's office. So yeah, I can throw that camera on for a minute, but I'm driving. So hello.
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 So Jordan was just here.
Yeah.
He had to leave because he had work. We talked about allyship
Yeah.
for the Black Lives Matter movement and what it means to be a queer person of color, because he's a queer person of color. So we're moving forward in this conversation. I'm gonna let you have the floor if you just want to like have some solo time to just talk to the people.
I don't have a lot to say about it, except that just a lot of noticing what's been happening. First, let me introduce myself. My name is, for all who are listening, Judd Johnson. For those who know who I am, hello. And those who don't, I'm a professor at the university out here, CSU Bakersfield. I've been teaching at the university level now for about 14 years. I'm also an artist, and I have my own experiences across the board there. Hollywood is generally where secondarily make my living, along with my work as an educator. So great. I'm glad you're doing this. This is super dope. Again, apologize for having the camera off, but I'm driving and doing all kind of crazy mess, so I'd rather not get in trouble with law enforcement.
Definitely, yeah, no, be safe.
Yeah. But that being said, I've just been noticing a lot, and I think that to me is really where I'm finding a lot of hope, where there's something different about this movement, and I'm enjoying that the issues of race have now transcended beyond just being a Black problem. That now racism, now we can start to tackle this issue where it really belongs. Where racism began, where the country was really developed and designed for. It was not designed for us. It wasn't built for us. It was built by white males with money, and it was built for them, by them, and sustained. And now, come a few hundred years later, here we are. We're still dealing with those same oppressive regimes that have sort of found themselves in our everyday life, and sort of it's the stitching that has bonded together these really big industries, including like you were just talking, the prison industrial complex, or even the banking system and redlining. A lot of people know what redlining is. Definitely need to look that up, right? Redlining, like banks were giving money to certain people and not giving them to others, and redlining certain groups of people and forcing them in different neighborhoods just so they can make sure they can keep all the Black people and brown people apart. So, I mean, all these really interesting connections that now are slowly starting to get to open up. And then today being Juneteenth, how many
Judd, you broke up. I can't hear you right now. I don't know if the people in the chat, if they can say if they can hear you, but I can't hear you.
I read or heard someone say today, what you
Judd, you're cutting out really bad. Oh, we lost him. Oh no. Okay, well, hopefully he'll be able to make his way back in. So I don't want to leave the stream in case he's able to come back in. Because he was making some points. Here, I'll message him. Sorry about that, guys. Oh,
there you go.
There you are. There you are.
Oh, my bad. Yeah, I got a little carried away there.
Yeah, you cut out at keeping the community separated and redlining with banks?
Yeah, all these really interesting sort of, you know, connections that are that people are starting to make and draw into really trying to understand what does it mean to this concept of institutionalized racism, and it's taken a lot for people to embrace that idea, what it means to have to know what, you know, what institutionalized racism actually means. I said a few more things there before I cut off, so I'm gonna see if I can go back to some of it. But I'm most interested in seeing all this new movement and all this awareness, like, you know, Juneteenth, you know, today being Juneteenth, and how many times have I read today or heard a friend or someone go, well, I didn't know what Juneteenth was, and, you know, until today. And now all of a sudden there's some awareness to that. People are wondering, why isn't, you know, today a national holiday? Why isn't it a federal holiday? This is by far, I put this on my Facebook, by far, probably the cleanest and the most, you know, beautiful expression of American freedom as there's ever been in this country. And to know what it does mean to express freedom, it is literally, Juneteenth is the number one, more than, to me, any other moment in history that we've had in this country. To know what is freedom, I mean, exactly what Juneteenth represents. You know, where, you know, some 60 million, estimated 60 million slaves were brought here through the Atlantic slave trade, you know, and you know, murdered and killed and raped and everything else. And then the day that freedom exists for that, for our country, for our people, is a true expression of freedom to me. So I'm just quite excited about the, you know, there are more white folks, more, you know, more of everyone talking about this, talking about what does it mean to dismantle this sort of, you know, supremacy, you know, the concept of supremacy in all its many forms. So yeah, I'm excited for that.
Good.
So that's what I have for now.
I'm excited too.
Yeah.
I had a question for you.
Yeah.
On your Facebook, you've been using hashtag sunlight disinfectant.
Yeah, sunlight disinfectant. Yeah.
Can you explain what that means?
So, you know, the old adage, sunlight is the best disinfectant, right? You know, put it out there and it you know, kills all the germs, and it you know, or the bad bugs. And so this concept of sunlight disinfectant is taking something that we want to, you know, purify, right, by exposing it, putting it out on the table and going, here, this is what it is. Let me share, and then in the middle of that sharing, I end up exposing the things that have hurt on the inside, whether they hurt me or whoever they've hurt. So by exposing it, one, we're not, you know, we're disinfecting it, right? We're trying to get rid of some of that, you know, those negative, you know, energies, but we're also sharing to those who may not understand what that process, what does it mean to, you know, go through a certain, you know, situation. And then this other group of people that had no idea that stuff was going on. And we're like, yeah, it is, you know, being Black in America is not like this. It seems trendy, you know, he's Black, he's brother, you know, blah, brother. It seems trendy at first, but there are things that happen on a daily basis that we tend to have to either, you know, just get over it and shut up and not talk about it. In the meantime, it ends up really hurting us internally. And, you know, or we say something about it and then, you know, stop and get over it. It's something happened along. It wasn't as bad as you think, or maybe it was this, or maybe it was that. They invalidate the experiences that end up happening to us people of color. And it not just Black folks, obviously, you know, Black and brown bodies, of course. But, you know, like one of the examples that I put on there was being pulled over once a month. You know, there's been 5 times this month I've been pulled over for no reason. You know, oh, well, you fit the description. Okay, thank you. Go about your way. Again, there's this whole thing.
Description.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And, you know, I've never gotten a ticket over it. Of course, I don't speed or anything, but I'm the Black guy in the white Mercedes. So maybe, you know, maybe that's what it is. But either way, it's that taking it, putting it out in the sunlight, in other words, sharing it. And then once I shared those experiences, I was getting comments back left and right. And folks were like, yo, Jay, I didn't know this happened to you. Wow, that really happened. That happens. Yeah, yep, does all the time. Actually happens, not just me. And I don't even want I'm sorry's or whatever. I want to be able to share it, and then folks finally go, you know what? If I had to deal with that every single day, wow, I'm not sure why you're not bitter.
Yeah.
Yeah, and no, of course I'm not bitter. Is that forgot the girl that said that it went super viral, where she kind of went off about, what does it mean to to riot and whatnot, and she had that last little comment. She said, you just better be glad that all we want is equality and not revenge, right? Be glad that black people want equality and not revenge. Not that I would ever be that kind of guy, but it's that constant reminder. One other thing is, and it sort of relates to this, is I had a person ask me one time. He said, "Why is it that black people always think about being black all the time? It's like everything is about black, everything's black, everything you black guy is." But why is that? And that's because we're always reminded of our blackness, of our otherness. All right, we're constantly reminded of our otherness every day where we go. Maybe I'm the only black person in the classroom. It's my classroom, right? Maybe it's every day I'll go somewhere and I'm generally one of 3 or 4 almost anywhere I go, except for my own home sometimes, right? So, and not that that's a problem, it's that there's always these little reminders here and there, little reminders, always being conscious of my own skin color. It's something that I think about. Okay, am I walking by this person? What am I wearing? What do I look like? Do I look intimidating? I'm wearing a tank top right now, but what is I'm thinking about that running through. Should I make her feel? I want her to feel uncomfortable. Let me walk around her, and so she knows that it's all those little,
It's kind of like the opposite of being like a woman walking around, like women in general. But like walking around, it's like, you got to keep your keys between your fingers. You got to make sure that you look intimidating. It's like the opposite. Like I need to, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's almost like to take up less space so that you're not a threat, because for some reason skin color is perceived as a threat. Yeah.
Because if I were anyone else, or if I, obviously if I were a white guy the same, that maybe I wouldn't be that intimidating or whatnot. But it's a constant reminder. So when I put the sunlight disinfectant, sort of a short hashtag, it's just me sharing a short little experience that there's plenty more, but I just shared a couple of short ones that I could just kind of put on a little meme there. And then sunlight disinfectant, just to put it out to disinfect, not so I want to make anyone feel bad or guilty or make people think that I'm going through all this turmoil and strife. It can be in some cases. Some cases they're hilarious. They're funny. Like the guys that me and my friend walk in, some guys drove by and threw some eggs at us. And they drove by and then yelled, dropped the N-bomb, and kept driving around on past like it was nothing. Him and I were like, wait, what? We kind of laughed at him. Like, did these fools just throw some eggs at us? Like, who throws eggs? It's like breakfast. That's breakfast. Like,
that's food. What are you doing?
You threw eggs. It's hot. It's a hot day, so you're gonna throw eggs. All right. And then they say the N-bomb, dropped the N-bomb on us, and we were like, and what? That's supposed to. They weren't gonna stop, because between him and I, he's bigger than I am, and there was no way they were gonna stop and say anything to us, of course. But they had drive by and throw eggs at us, and then drove off, and we were like, okay. And they missed too. They didn't even hit us. They were terrible. So, but it's like those little experiences that we can laugh at.
I'm laughing. This is terrible.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's worth laughing at. We did laugh at it. Of course we laughed at it, and we kind of have to, because if we don't, every day there could be some experience that I don't sit there and giggle at. It's a word, and that word only gets power because I gave it power, not because you think it has power. You know what I mean? So if I give it power and you can drop that word and I'm like, threatened by it, then that's part of my problem. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not going to let somebody, dropping N-bombs left. Call it inappropriate. It's inappropriate. But in terms of how I'm affected by it emotionally, there's a level of forgiveness and it has to happen there. So, yeah.
And then we had one question for you from the comments. In your experience, do they, and I think this is about like other people who you're trying to enlighten, I guess, do they ever bring up other people of color who disagree with you in order to invalidate you?
Oh yeah, absolutely. One of my best friends, we had, I mean, it wasn't an argument, but it might as well have been. It got to a point where it could have been an argument, and he literally said out of his mouth, he's another brother actually. He said out of his mouth, he's like, "Yay, man! Like, listen, I don't think. I mean, racism exists, but I just don't think that it exists this way. I think you can come up with little examples, but you look at the thing across the board, it's not there, bro. I think we're over." And I'm like, man, I was like, and I had to laugh at him, like, really? I don't want to say his name. Really, bro, really? Yeah. And so that argument we went back and forth a bit about it. And the easy example was talking about, again, the prison industrial complex, of course, and how Black folks make up 50% of the prison population. How, more than that, actually, Black and brown bodies make up some 67, 70% of the prison population. And mind you, we only make up 13% of the and so how are these bodies being filled up in prisons? Well, they had to. And so having that discussion and him going, no, that's because, Black people are always doing something wrong. I'm like, oh, really? That so that does happen sometimes. But that there's especially any persons of color, there's a process that you have to go through, that you have to go through. That is decolonizing your mind first. If you do not decolonize your own mind, there's no way to really identify what's happening out there. The glasses that you're wearing are tinted. They're tinted, they're shaded, and you got these blinders on, and you only see the world through which you experience by this much, and that's all you see. The moment you decolonize that thinking and come out of the cave, and it'll be bright outside. It's gonna hurt for a minute. It's gonna hurt. Anybody see the allegory of the cave, right? It's gonna hurt. But once it clears up and you see that big old huge what's really going on, it changes you, and it should. But sometimes us folks of color need to spend some time educating ourselves in some things. I go, wow, didn't realize that there was such thing called redlining. Whoa, didn't realize that, the prison, didn't realize that the 13th Amendment has more on it. It doesn't just say that slaves are free. It says more. Yeah. Right? There's a lot more to it. It says, under certain conditions like prisons. Yeah. Right?
Unless you're a criminal. Haha, got him.
Yeah. And they don't, there's those kinds of, learnings that have to happen with self first. And once that happens, then I'm able to go, okay, there we go. So yeah, I hope that answered the question a bit. Was there any experiences there that I've had in terms of dealing with other people of color, dealing with my own sort of invalidating, my experiences or trying to? Sure. Sometimes to try. Another thing that also happens, I'm sorry to talk so much here, but another thing that also happens is that some will not understand what's actually happening, but would rather try to explain it off as something benign because that's easier. It's easier to go, well, maybe I just deserve the bad grade. Well, maybe I just deserve the ticket, I guess. Well, it is a bright car. I do get pulled over a lot. It's a bright car. I probably should have got it.
Domestic abuse victims.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
Exactly what is happening, and that's that's typical for and they'll try to explain that off without going, wait a minute, that's not okay. That's simply not okay. It's just not okay. So yeah.
I've been reading How to Be an Anti-Racist by Brahm X. Kendi. And there's a quote in there, and when you were talking about like decolonizing, you know what I'm saying?
I get it. Yeah.
He says, internalized racism is the true black on black crime.
Yeah. Yeah, and the true, which is means to say that there is no real. The concept of black on black crime is quite
just
literally
it's just crime.
It's a talking point. Yeah, it's a talking point. Crime happens where people live and exist. It doesn't matter if whites live and they're whites. No one talks about white on white crime, or brown. It is not talked about that way. Crime happens where people are living and they congregate. But to go back to your point, the true black on black crime is self, right? Is really not having, getting to your point of, of going, hey, what am I thinking? What's happening here first? What do I know? What have I studied? What have I,
Mhm.
you know, whose readings have I heard? Have I read through? Yeah, absolutely. I could not disagree with you more. And the more we get out of this idea of what, you know, I think part of the discussion that me and my friend had was he felt that, well, murders in Chicago, and why aren't we protesting you know, gang violence? Well, and we'll continue to, right?
Mhm.
We'll continue to 100%. But we can chew and walk and chew at the same time, right? We can chew gum and walk. So we can deal with some of the issues that Black folks deal with in our own, you know, our environments, our own, you know, societal and our own, you know, social issues. We can deal with those and still deal with what the promises and the contracts that were made, that were promised to us as members of this society by that society. So the government, you know, should be held to that, and we shouldn't back away because there's gang violence or because Chicago has a bunch of murders or Detroit. No, you know, with all the mitigating factors that are probably race related and race connected to that, we could still walk and shoot. We could still talk about, okay, let's deal with gang violence, but also, hey, listen, law enforcement, you ain't supposed to be killing people for no, you know, no damn reason.
Yeah.
You should be held to another standard, held to a higher standard.
Yeah. And the retort that I hear is
Yeah.
like, oh, well, they kill white people too. It's like, well, then be mad about it. Like,
Yes.
it's police brutality is wrong, period, full stop. You know, it just so happens that it affects people of color more, and that's the issue. That's, you know.
The statistic is, I don't have the statistic right at hand. I actually had listened to CNN this morning. They actually dropped it. I can't tell you up there. But what the major issue is with that specific stat is that it's 3 times more likely that a police officer kills a Black person than someone non-Black or white. Is 3 times more likely that a Black. Now think about the population size. Again, we're only 12.7% of the population. How are we 3 times more likely to die at the hands of the police officer than and that's just death, let alone being arrested or, you know, prison sentences, going to a judge and judge goes, hey, you know, you're the white guy and you're the Black guy. You both did the exact same thing wrong. White guy, you're going to get, you know, 5 months in jail and, you know, time served. And the Black guy, you're going to, you know, 15 years in a federal pen for the same crime. Like, those are things that are that have to be addressed. So, you know, they may seem like, well, he made a crime. Well, yeah, he did a crime, but should that punishment be as severe? And again,
the punishment needs to fit the crime,
right,
not the person. It shouldn't be a distinction.
It reminds me of that guy out of Stanford, that kid out of Stanford that was,
Brock Turner.
He raped that girl in the street. He got what? Probation?
3 months.
You know? 3 months. There you go. Yeah. That's pretty much, I mean, he might as well get probation at that point. They gave, and he walked away from it. Now there has been many persons of color that rightfully so deserve who get rape sentences, but go away for 10, 15, 20 years. Rightfully so, 100% they should. But this guy gets, you know, that's one example, but he's not the only one, you know, and it may not be rape. It could be all kinds of things, right?
The one kid who shot up the Black church. And then they took him to freaking like Burger King.
Go get something to eat. He's hungry. Yeah. Well, you know, I mean, we can go down to, as we can do the research, look at the research and look at folks that guys have been pulled over for, like, you know, driving on a suspended license or something, which is just random, right? And those guys getting jail sentences versus, you know, their white counterparts getting, hey, go get come back and we'll drop the case. And it's like, wait a minute. For one group of people, it's a fix-it ticket. For them, it's, you know, 6 months in jail. They lose their job and everything else that goes around that.
And they can't vote.
And they can't vote during that time. So it's like the whole process is just awful in so many ways. So I just love the idea of exposing it, just putting it out there. Just say it, put it out there. And the more we admit it and claim it and say it and talk about it and say it and claim it and that process keeps exposing it and calling it out when it needs to be called out and not staying silent. That's the one that's getting me right now with some of my friends. Their silence is deafening. All right. Not saying anything when all this is happening. You know, the history books are going to write about this stuff. And where are we
It's
going
not
to
enough to just not be racist.
You just can't.
But you need to be against racist. There's no, it's like in the book that I already referenced, but there's no neutrality on the conversation of racism. You're either racist or you're anti-racist. There's no not racist.
Apathy does not exist. Apathy, there is no apathy. If you're apathetic when it comes to this struggle, I don't have a choice. I can't be apathetic. I can't be.
Yeah.
It's gonna happen. I can try to ignore it, but it's not gonna happen. Right. So yeah, apathy is not a choice with our fellow, brothers and sisters that are running around, going through the struggle. We all win when we find a way through. In a post-Obama presidency, we thought that there was some movement and growth, but that was used to sort of hold over the head and going, "Hey, see, we're not racist. See, look it." And
yeah,
obviously,
it's tokenism.
We see what exactly,
yeah.
Right, exactly.
The presidency has a token, Black person now. Yeah, there's a sound on TikTok, because I'm on TikTok because I'm lame. Yes. But it goes, Black neighborhoods are over-policed, so of course they have higher rates of crime, and white neighborhoods are undercharged, so of course they have lower rates of crime. There you go. Yep. Yeah. There it is. That's exactly what it is. That's exactly the struggle. And that struggle just finds its way in so many different little, it's got its fingers, its tentacles, and so many. So dismantling this is not going to be about a couple protests for a couple months, This is not about George Floyd, even though that was the linchpin. That was the little piece of straw that broke the camel's back on this. This is about all those tentacles that have found their way in all these different areas. And dismantling this process is going to take time, a lot of time and patience. And what happens my question is, what happens when none of this is trendy anymore? What happens when the protesting isn't trendy anymore? What happens when everything has died down and the former police officers have been tried and they're in jail and everyone's quiet? What happens? What happens then? Are we still going to hear from us and the same white folks and from everybody that goes, hey, it's still happening, can we still dismantle this? There's some beautiful signs, NFL finally not tripping about them going on the knee and NASCAR exactly, which is long overdue. I'm not going to applaud them for that. They should have been done. Took that damn. It should have been done a long fucking time ago. Like the lynching thing is now illegal. Like what do you mean it's now illegal? How was it? Now really? It's illegal to lynch anyone. Yeah, the Confederate flag, really? Really? If you go to Germany right now and find a Nazi flag, good luck. Yeah. I'm sure you might, but good luck what comes with that, right? But it's our heritage. Dude, my emo phase lasted longer than your heritage. Yeah, right. The statues up to Confederate, people that waged war against America. Yeah. Wait, what? And for one reason, so they can keep slaves. It's for states' rights. Bullshit. Not for states' rights. Not for states' rights. It was so that you can keep slaves. To keep slaves. That's the only thing they wanted. Anyone, and it says any different, I just cannot agree with that. Done history, looked it up, got it. It was because they wanted to keep slaves. It was their economic well-being. They knew they could do it. It was their right as the superior race, as what's name said in his writings. It was their right as the superior race to be able to do that, and that was going to be taken from them. And so they must fight to keep that. And so here we are with these statues and Confederate flags, the people who literally upheld that institution. And we're 2020. People walk by that to do one thing, to celebrate them. Wow. That's the only reason why you keep a statue, is to celebrate that those group of people. So we'll see. We'll see how this looks when it's not as trendy anymore. And I'm hoping that even when the trendiness of this goes away, there's still some allies fighting. So yeah, allyship. I hope that. Yeah. What else do we have? Allyship. I like that. Yeah, allyship. I think Jordan and I talked about this earlier, but we were talking as allies because he's a non-Black person of color.
Yeah.
And I'm obviously white as hell. But from your perspective, what is something that you would implore allies to do? And my question earlier had been, how did I phrase it? It was, I recognize that it's my responsibility to educate myself and to break the cycle I was raised in. On top of that, or beyond that, what are some notes that you would like to give to allies?
Well, one starts with what I just said. When this is no longer trendy, because it's a little trendy right now, which is fine. If fighting racism is trendy, let's do it, baby. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's go be trendy. Love it. But when the trend fades out, stay on board, right? That's one. Second, do one thing every single day. Do one thing to help dismantle this regime, help dismantle this construct, right? To help dismantle this, do one thing every day. If it's donating money, if it's to organizations that help with this, help dismantle the structure. If it's talking with people and friends, if it's having those uncomfortable conversations on a regular basis, if it's calling something out when you see it, even if you don't, if it's educating, reading, watching movies, supporting, I say this about supporting Black businesses. That's because usually no one goes to Black business except for maybe some Black folks, right? And so Black businesses don't get to have economic security, because with economic security comes a sense of worth. And when you feel like you're worth something, when you feel like you've got something, you're worth something, you're less likely to find yourself in trouble and issues with the law or whatnot. Doesn't mean you're not, but it means you're less likely. So supporting Black businesses, it doesn't mean just go only to Black. It means consider that business also when you're making the decision to go somewhere to eat or go somewhere to shop for clothes or or whatnot. Supporting those. What else? If it's doing one thing every single day, one thing. If you do that every day for the rest of your life, it's a win. Watching movies. What else is there? Another thing in terms of allyship is, and this is really, really important to me, is educating yourself. Educate yourself, no matter how uncomfortable you're going to get, because you're going to get uncomfortable. You're going to get very, very, and all you guys out there in online world there, like, you're going to get uncomfortable, and that's okay. Like, be uncomfortable. Be okay with being uncomfortable. I don't want to feel this. Neither do I. Neither do I. I don't either. I wake up in the morning and I leave the house, and that's a wrap. There you go. I'm back at it again. And comes something else every single day. And if it's exhausting to you, imagine what we feel like,
Yeah.
Imagine what it feels like that I got to have someone call apartment complexes for me or somewhere to stay so that I can, so that he'll call me back. Because if he hears my chocolate voice, I'm not calling that guy back. So I got to have, someone non-Black, whatever. But yeah, so, educating yourself, that's a big one, reading and whatnot. So those three things to me matter. When it's not trendy, are you still going to be there fighting? Number two, educating yourself, getting, acclimating yourself to what's going on in terms of, dismantling white supremacy, dismantling, that structure, and then educating yourself. Yeah.
Awesome.
At least those things. Yeah. Keep the fight going. That's all I say.
Yeah.
Just keep it going.
For sure.
It took 450 years to get here. It took 450 years to get to this point. It's not going to take a couple of protests and a court case.
Yeah.
It took 450 years to get to the spot.
There was a timeline, I think it was on Instagram. So like you had to like swipe through a couple posts to be able to see the whole thing. And it was like the George Floyd protests are like 29 days, but then the forget the name of it, but the bus boycott.
Ah, yes. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was like 400 days or something.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So like we're just getting started. Yeah. So don't get burnt out.
Yeah.
Keep going.
The tricky thing about it is that how racism how it's exposed, how we see it, how it's manifest itself. See, back in the day, even like 60s, 70s, even 80s, you kind of knew who was the racist jerk, because they wore it on his sleeve. They wrote it right here in their forehead. I'm a racist asshole. That's they wore it right there, and they're okay with it. I don't want you to live in my neighborhoods. Don't drink from my fountains. Go to that part of the restaurant. We knew who you were. They wore it right there in their foreheads. And in some cases, that seemed a little easier to understand where it's coming from and go, okay, that's not right. But now it's different. It's exposed itself in a very different way. To be called a racist is like the infamous bad word, It's like, oh, please, no, I'm, absolutely not. And that's fair, absolutely, So what ends up happening is that it's disguised itself underneath. It's become what we have these microaggressions. We call those microaggressions. They're still there, but they just manifest themselves in a softer, a more pleasant case. It looks nicer. The wrapping looks nicer, so it doesn't
palatable
come off that way.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's easier to be like, oh, see, no, it's not that. Listen, daughter, you can totally date him. He's fine. I know he's a colored boy. He's fine, but listen, I think that he probably. You guys gonna break up. You're
giving me flashbacks.
Listen, I think you should not do it. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And he's a good kid. All of a sudden they dress it as something else. Yeah. And so
definitely. I mean, when I think I posted this in a comment on one of your posts about how I dated a black guy when I was in like middle school. So of course we weren't going to stay together forever. Yeah. It's freaking middle school. Yeah. But my a person who was looking over me was saying, there's too many cultural differences.
Yeah. Oh,
we go to the same school. We live like in the same city. Like, what are you talking about? Like cultural differences. Yeah. And he was like, well, it's just, the Bible says.
You're too young.
The Bible says that you need to stay within your own clan. Your own tribe. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
That don't make no sense. But I mean, we broke up anyway because we went to different high schools. So like
it was gonna happen. You're gonna break up anyway. It was gonna happen. But it's those kinds of sort of, very much easy to swallow pills that go, hey, everything's fine. And so really it's trying to identify those, really trying to find those. So in terms of allyship, really identify those moments. Also give opportunities for some of those people of color that to express, to share some things that may be bothering them and be able to, be a listener. That helps so much in a lot of ways. Just to be a good listener sometimes, be like, yo, that just happened. I can't believe it. And that helps. Sometimes you don't really need someone to go say I'm sorry 100 times. Just being a listener helps too, without invalidating someone else's experience. So yeah.
I was going to ask you if you could, because I've tried to explain white privilege to other white people.
Yeah.
Who, being raised white by white people and being taught that reverse racism was real when it's not. Hearing that, when somebody says you have white privilege, they're being racist against you or they're attacking you. Like, how would you... So the way I try to describe white privilege is just that, like, my life isn't easy, but it's not harder because of my skin color. So the idea, we can go up and down the block with the reverse racism thing, right? Racism by definition is about power and control, having to do with thinking one race is more superior to another. The word superior matters, right? It's like when the race thinks it's superior, not thinks it's different. There's prejudice left and right, but racism is really tied to power. And those who have power and want to maintain power, right? That's by definition what it is. But when we think about white privilege, we think about, I think the easiest thing for me when I try to explain it is best put with this country was built for a certain group of people. And for hundreds of years, that certain group of people have benefited from that structure. If you are not a part of that group, you don't get to, have those benefits, right? Those benefits are not given to you, to us. And so privilege does not, I think the word privilege kind of twists people's thought. They're like, oh, it's a privilege, I'm going to get something, right? The word privilege has this sort of, meaning or thought that it's going to,
that you're going to get something out of this. Hey, we have a privilege. We get to drive, or we get to do this. No, it just means that you can go through your day, you can go through your week, and never once think about the color of your skin. Never once. Not have to consider that with any decision you make. You could just make the decision. Whereas we, on the other hand, have to consider that. We have to consider it on many different levels. Who we date, when we go somewhere, what time of the night it is it dark, is it light? What are we wearing? Are we wearing a hood? Should we not wear a hood? Guns, should we even own a gun? Do I need to own a gun? What if I own a gun? That means all these decisions that are made, and we have to consider our race. That's not a privilege. I don't really enjoy considering what color my skin is every single time I make a decision about something. So privilege is just the white privilege is the ability to live and exist in a society that was made and designed for you. That's it. Now, anything that happens wrong out of that that's fine, right? That's just that's nature, wrong or right, or the nature of consequences. But in terms of your skin color being something that disadvantages you, is where you don't have to worry about that. That the disadvantages aren't yours. So really, it should be called probably white advantage, maybe. If they were renaming of it,
like when you roll with advantage.
Right advantage, white. I don't know. I mean, I mean, we get privilege. It works. I mean, that's the term that works technically, but there's a connotation to it it's not. That gets sort of twisted.
It makes it sound like, oh, well, my life isn't a cakewalk, like,
yeah. Well,
okay,
everyone has problems.
Point, Brad.
Right. Everyone has problems. We just know that solving those problems or the color of your skin isn't the reason why you have those problems, right? Everyone has problems, but the color of your skin isn't going to be the reason or the thing that holds you back for whatever reason. And that's essentially what white privilege is. I mean, if I were to put it in one sentence, it would be that. So the color of your skin does not take you away from opportunities or whatnot. So it's a hard thing. We said it. We put that phrase out there, and people were like, "White privilege? There's no privileges. I don't have any privileges." It's like, no, you don't. We didn't say you won the lottery.
Yeah,
we didn't say that. We said that those oppressive regimes that are existing in this space are not the ones that are oppressing you. You don't have to worry about redlining. You don't have to worry about it. Now, being broke is something else. Yeah. Economic oppression is a whole nother ballgame. We all understand that. Everybody understands economic oppression. That, being poor is being poor. Dismantling, the top 1% that owns 80%, 90% of all the wealth. There's a problem, right? And they're all white too. So that's really, it's what it is. It's about money. So we can all agree to that. We just know that, it's just a lot easier, not easy, but easier to exist and deal with some of these issues and not have to deal with race on top of that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Cool. How we doing?
Right. I think we're doing good. I don't have any other questions. If you have any other stories you want to tell, I don't see anything new in the chat. So
yeah, I don't know. I don't right now. Thank you for doing this. I appreciate this. I appreciate you for doing this and continue. Hopefully you'll have more folks on board to watch and be a part of this. I'm probably gonna have to sneak out of here, but my last little bit to probably add to this would just be, keep the fight. Do one thing every single day. This is a wonderful one thing. Juneteenth, let's sign petitions. Let's make this a federal holiday. It should be. It's literally Juneteenth is not just a black holiday. It is an American holiday. It should be. It's white folks were part of Juneteenth. White folks are the one that came in on ships and said, "Hey, slaves, you're free." It's the white folks that did that. White folks that were helping to that were fighting that Civil War. It was a white guy that signed the Emancipation Proclamation. It's not just a black holiday. It's an everybody holiday. So let's do something to celebrate America's true test of freedom. This wouldn't have been the case if they wouldn't have went to Africa and stole a bunch of people and said, "Here, come work." Wouldn't be the problem, but here it is.
We love character development.
I know, right? That's funny. That's hilarious. But yeah. There it is. Now we're building characters, right? But yeah, keep up that fight. Do one thing every single day, and don't be afraid of the uncomfortable conversation. Make people, if people are uncomfortable or defriend you or whatever, let them,
Yeah.
because you want to be
You
on the
don't need
right side
that
of history.
activity anyway.
Yeah, you want to be on the right side of history, no matter what. Be on the right side of history on this. And the history book's going to write about this. And when it does, what is it going to say about you? You know what I mean? That's really where you want to be. Is it going to say that you were apathetic, or you can tell your grandkids? Because, I mean, if we think of all the pivotal moments in time when they were protesting things, I mean, 2020 is going to be one for the books, man. People are going to look back at 2020 with COVID and now, this and protests, and it's just suspending economic insecurity. Yeah, right. And it's like no cures or nothing. We're just like, we don't know what the hell is going to go on. This is the first 6 months. Imagine the next 6 months. I don't even know. Like, wow. So, thank you very much. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Judd.
Thanks, Steph. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, bye.
Cheers.
Okay, so I'm very happy that we were able to have Jordan and Judd come into the chat. I guess my other guests aren't going to be able to make it, which is totally okay. Things happen. I do want to do another one of these soon, so hopefully I will have people for that one as well. Thank you guys who watched the stream, or anyone who's watching it in the future. Don't forget to leave a like, because that lets me know that, somebody's watching. And yeah, just keep, as Judd said, keep fighting the good fight and educating yourselves and doing things to keep the movement going. I guess I'm just going to wrap up the stream here. I don't really know what else to say. I had something else I was going to say. I just don't remember what it was. But yeah, thank you guys for hanging out, and I'll see you in another JuneTube video tomorrow. Love you. Bye. And broadcast.